Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. And thanks for stopping by the studio today. We got something very special and a new plugin from Waves. It's the L4 Ultramaximizer.
I just woke up out the bed and thank my father for the day. I feel rich and it ain't even from the dollars that I made. I'm successful not because of all my followers or fame, but because 2,000 years ago Christ walked about the grave.
The limiter is the most important plugin that you're going to place on your master bus or as the final plugin in some of your mixing chains. If you dial it in incorrectly, we're going to lose all the work that we did in the mix. We're going to lose our transients, we're going to lose the dynamics, and we're just going to wreck the fidelity and the integrity of the mix that we worked so hard for. Not all limiters are created equally. They have their own sounds and different characters. I've compared so many different limiters over the years. I would say it's a lot like using a compressor. You're going to reach for different colors and different tones of compression at different times. If you have been using the same limiter, maybe you're only using the limiter in your DAW, it may not be the right sound for every track that you're doing. So here in L4, we get some different modes. The classic vintage L2 is built in here with all the new features of L4. But let's go through some of the other ones and listen very closely to the difference in the low end, the transients, the dynamics, and just the overall punch of our mix.
Yes, I'ma give him all the glory and the honor. I'm just trying to raise the sun up, kinda sorta like my mama. I'ma spread the gospel all the way from Florida to Uganda. About to hit 1 billion views off of the glory of my father. What? You think I'm doing this for me? Before I made $1, I was doing this for free. I can't even help it, God's been blessing me abundantly. I will not give up on God, cause he never gave up on me. Jesus flipped the table, now I serve him like a waiter. Yahweh chose me, I got worthy on my jersey like a Laker. You can't break me cause you didn't make me, you're not my creator. I can do all things through Christ except get worried about a hater.
Modern, gonna be louder, fuller, low end. Smooth, you can hear that kick gets a little bit more rounded, more of a tape sound overall. Aggressive, lots of punchy transients. Safe, this is going to be better for delivering to like broadcasts and making sure that everything is super glued and controlled. And of course, the classic L2. No matter what sonic profile your song has, these cover a lot of ground to get you the right result in the right situation. A lot of you can't actually hear what you're attenuating, and it can be really hard to understand what you're losing with the limiter. Thankfully, with L4, we have a new Delta mode, which is going to let you directly monitor what is being kind of chopped off or lost with the limiter.
Woke up out the bed and thank my father for the day. I feel rich and it ain't even from the dollars that I made. I'm successful not because of all my followers or fame, but because 2,000 years ago Christ walked about the grave. Yeah. But I'm not soft.
As we move that threshold too low, we're starting to notice that even some of our vocals are getting chopped off, which means the integrity of our entire mix is getting compromised at this point. So with the Delta mode, we can pull that down and dial it back much easier in the sense of knowing what we're losing. How many of you are generally only using the threshold and the ceiling controls on your limiter? Maybe you're just not familiar with some of the other controls like the ones here on the L4. A lot of advanced stuff that is going to drastically improve the results you're getting with your limiter. Number one, true peak. Very useful if you do not want to go over an absolute ceiling. So for instance, if some of the platforms are more strict, you need to adhere to this. If there is a digital to analog conversion, sometimes you can go above the ceiling, even if you have it set at -1, unless true peak is turned on to take into account that conversion. So again, if you want to adhere to really strict standards for peak loudness, turn on true peak. Okay, so how many of you have seen this oversampling option in your plugins and you see this X2, X4, X8, X16, and you don't know what that necessarily is? All this is doing is it's taking the internal signal and it's upsampling it for processing for the purpose of having more accurate limiting and clipping. You get a more transparent result and you can go louder without having a lot of artifacts introduced. The caveat here is that as we go higher into like even X8 or X16, when we turn oversampling on, you'll see that we get a bump in our CPU usage. So just to note, if you have oversampling off versus even just on, you're going to have more CPU. But what I like to do is set this somewhere in the middle, somewhere around ×4 or ×8 even. It's going to give us the most transparent result.
Yes, I'ma give him all the glory and the honor. I'm just trying to raise the sun up, kinda sorta like my mama. I'ma spread the gospel all the way from Florida to Uganda. About to hit 1 billion views off of the glory of my father. What?
The release is very similar to a compressor. It's just controlling how quickly the L4 is going to let go, if you will, of the signal. And so if we go this way, we're going to get a faster response. And if we go this way, it's going to be much slower.
Yes, I'ma give him all the glory and the honor. I'm just trying to raise the sun up, kinda sorta like my mama. I'ma spread the gospel all the way from Florida to Uganda. About to hit 1 billion views.
Faster release, generally louder, and I like the transients there. And if we go slower, it's more of a glued sound. But for this, I like the faster release. Now we have a new clip control, which essentially is going to give us more loudness if we introduce more clipping, versus if we go this way, there's going to be no clipping allowed internally. And so we're not going to be able to push that as much.
What? You think I'm doing this for me? Before I made $1, I was doing this for free. I can't even help it, God's been blessing me abundantly. I will not give up on God, cause he never gave up on me. Jesus flipped the table, now I serve him like a waiter. Yahweh chose me, I got worthy on my jersey like a Laker.
And I'm going to leave that in the middle. To me, that sounds the best. Let's make dither really simple. This is a 24-bit depth file, right? So this is my mix that was exported. Now, if we're going to export this or bounce this out of the DAW, let's say my distributor only accepts 16-bit 44K WAV files, that means we're going to reduce the bit depth. And so we want to use dither because we're going from 24-bit in the session down to 16. Without getting too technical, all this is going to do is introduce a little bit of low-level noise. In quieter spaces, sometimes you'll hear this degradation of quality. It can be really subtle, but the safe practice and the safe bet, if you're going to reduce the bits, then you want to drop that down and turn dither on for your export. And you only want to do this once. So you should be the absolute last person touching the master when you turn on dither. Now, there's a lot of conversation about LUFS in terms of loudness and using that reading as sort of a definitive measurement of loudness. And I can just tell you that that only tells part of the story, especially in the modern era where a lot of the streaming platforms and distribution platforms for music utilize normalization, which means they're going to set every song to the same LUFS, which means perceived loudness becomes much more important. Upward compression is a great example of utilizing perceived loudness and increasing perceived loudness without necessarily affecting the LUFS reading in a dramatic way. Let me show you what I mean here. We're going to use upward compression to bring up the quieter spaces or the quieter parts of our mix to get an overall louder signal throughout.
Gave my life to Christ, they didn't say what it would cost. Now I'm dying to myself and taking up my cross. It's simple, it ain't easy though. Narrow is the path I'm walking on, this ain't no easy road. Jesus bought me with the blood and paid for everything I owe. But I guess the price was right, it's kinda like the TV show. Yes, I'ma give him all the glory.
You could have a very loud mix or master with a high LUFS reading, but maybe that's just because there's a ton of low end and that's what's giving you that reading. But then the perceived loudness for someone on a phone is actually not loud at all because the vocal and the other instruments aren't being processed to be put up front. Let me show you what I mean. So if we go in here in this mastering chain, I actually have a plugin here, Vitamin, and this is specifically to increase perceived loudness for your master.
Woke up out the bed and thank my father for the day. I feel rich and it ain't even from the dollars that I made. I'm successful not because of all my followers of fame, but because 2,000 years ago Christ walked about the grave. Yeah, I'm saved, but I'm not soft. Feel like Paul and Silas, I had chains, but they fell off. Gave my life to Christ, they didn't say what it would cost. Now I'm dying.
just getting your wheels turning to understand that this LUFS reading is only one piece of the loudness puzzle. It's very common to think of a limiter just as a tool in the mastering process. However, I also use these on just about all of my vocal chains. The reason being, it's a very easy and effective way to get that last little bit out of the vocal so that it can sit properly with the beat, but also just be very upfront and clear, especially in rap vocals like this. So let me show you what I mean here. I'm going to set the ceiling to -1 just to give us a brick wall. And then we're going to push up the threshold and we'll hit the upward compression to give us a lift on the perceived loudness.
I just woke up out the bed and thank my father for the day. I feel rich and it ain't even from the dollars that I made. I'm successful not because of all my followers or fame, but because 2,000 years ago Christ walked about the grave. Yeah, I'm saved, but I'm not soft. Feel like Paul and Silas, I had chains, but they fell off. Gave my life to Christ, they didn't say what it would cost. Now I'm dying. I just woke up out the bed and thank my father for the day. I feel rich and it ain't even from the dollars that I made. I'm successful not because of all my followers or fame, but because 2,000 years ago Christ walked about the grave. Yeah, I'm saved, but I'm not soft. Feel like Paul and Silas, I had chains, but they fell off. Gave my life to Christ.
I also have a mastering preset, which is what I was using here, and I just added in the L4. Previously, this was using the L3, so I'm going to update this preset. I think this is one of the most downloaded presets on Studioverse. I'm glad that y'all are finding it helpful. Now you'll have an updated version with all of the new capabilities here in the L4 Ultramaximizer. Appreciate y'all checking in with me. I'd love to know what you all think is the most useful or helpful feature here in L4. Share that with us in the comments below. Hope to see you again next time. Much love to you all. Talk to you soon.